Class buffs coming to Season of Discovery. What is this here?
Season of Discovery Phase 2 has been out for less than a week as of right now, and I'm sure you've already seen hordes of complaints about basically overtuning or undertuning, buffing or nerfing classes all over the internet. Well, rest assured that some of those classes will actually be receiving buffs come next week. And even though we are only one day into the new lockout, we're already seeing massive changes in what classes are performing the best at the high.
Wait, hold on. Oh, shit. Sorry. Wrong screen. Mages. Fire Mage literally on top by a large margin. Warrior starting to creep up as well, though. Guys, I'm telling you this. Warrior, give it a few weeks. Let the Warriors get some gear. It is going to be Brown Town, baby. Okay? Like, Warrior's going to be on top. But Mages are kind of popping off, though.
Highest level. Even if you go to 99th percentile, you will still see that mages are now shooting up on top of hunters, and we're seeing warlocks at the top also now beating
Fire
hunters,
mage,
which will be a trend. It will actually keep going this way, where warlocks and mages keep going up and warriors get closer to hunters. But what about all of the classes that are down here? What about ranged hunter, enhanced shaman, balanced and feral druids, and of course DPS paladins? Well, the first classes faced to get the nerf hammer was actually the balanced druids. They had a nerf to their star surge ability, but there was supposed to be a balance there where they got a buff to the star fire ability. This actually did not pan out the way that it was supposed to. The actual buff you were supposed to get of 66% to your next starfire was not actually being applied correctly. And this is something that the devs actually noticed, and they've said that there was a bug, and they are going to be adjusting that next week with the maintenance as well as some buffs to other things. And
I feel like it's nice that they're being transparent about making some mistakes with it. But dude, let's be honest, dude, that druid nerf was definitely warranted, man. It was way too strong. Now the fire mage is strong. Will you finally bring Mordial to one of your raids? It always goes back to that, huh?
Of course, this makes you wonder, does that mean other buffs to other classes?
Really
we didn't see anything about nerfs. And in fact, it does. Buffs coming to a few different classes, not just druid. Now we don't know exactly what those buffs are, and we don't know which of the classes will be receiving those buffs, but there's no mention here of nerfs. One of the things that we really would love to see is any of the other classes below the top 4 being brought up closer to their level. Now,
I mean, it's always more fun for the players, I guess, if these classes gets buffed rather than these up here gets nerfed, right? Because it always feels shitty having your class nerfed, but we gotta be careful about power creeping, man. Like, suddenly everything's gonna be insanely OP, but overall, I mean, I guess it just doesn't feel fun playing these classes down here, but I still think you gotta keep in mind that this is like the top 100 parses, I think, so like the perfect parse, right? We were doing our first No Morgan raid, and we had an elemental shaman doing like absolutely insane damage in our raid.
To their level. Now, do be aware, this is the very first day after the reset in the raid. Bosses still have over 4,500 armor on some of the bosses, and some of the bosses are just way better for certain specs, like mages being phenomenally good for the mechanical menagerie fight, because that fight just lends itself to be really good for mages. Also, warriors do well here because they can cleave, and they will continue to do even better as they get more and more gear.
Dude, it is gonna be so fun as a warrior being on the menagerie, you know, the second to last boss with all the pets and everything. That's gonna be a fun one, man. Stack up all the mobs and just start cleaving it down. Mark me, chat. It's gonna be sick. You also the hunter parsing 32, so maybe your raid was his Pepega. Maybe you're just a Pepega method Quando. How about that?
And if you look at the fights that do not have this ridiculous amount of armor, you are seeing melee at the top. We've got melee hunter, warrior, and rogue here at the top. And again, warriors and other melee classes should continue doing better and better each week. So just know that we're gonna see a lot of changes as the weeks go on, just even if there isn't any class tuning. But there are some classes that are still underperforming and not looking like they can actually get up to the level of some of the best classes. And these are classes like feral druids or retribution paladins, but there was a stealth paladin buff that went out today, which is actually pretty nice. Art of War has been buffed and now reduces the mana cost of Holy Shock and Exorcism by 80%. I believe there was also a couple other stealth buffs that went out for paladins today, so this is definitely a class on Blizzard's radar.
it's really interesting to me how Feral is underperforming that much, because from what I saw with the runes and everything, Feral looked like it was gonna be really, really strong. And I guess they just don't have really strong AoE as well, though. Shockadens will be so good. Yeah, I mean, I have a feeling that they will, but I guess they don't have no AoE, right? Other runes are just better. They nerfed the Mangle and there's no AoE. Yeah, so Druid's got a little bit shafted in that regard, I guess. I did my rotation wrong, by the way. I thought I needed to Fireball. I just need to spam Scorch and Living Bomb. Oh, okay. I mean, you live and you learn, right? And you get better and better. The thing Ferals are still using Mangle and no Shred yet. I think, what is it? Mangle replaces like another ability, right? But yeah.
Your class is underperforming right now. Just be cautious. Do know that Blizzard is aware of how classes are performing, either if the class is doing very well or if the class is doing poorly. They are paying attention to this and looking at it, but they have to try to balance things. So if they buff a class for the raid, will it make it absolutely broken in PvP? We don't know exactly, and this is kind of the whole gold and the beauty of Season of Discovery, figuring out which classes are going to do well. But it's not the end of the world if a class is better than yours or if your class is better than others.
Oh, that video stopped like really suddenly.
Better than others.
Okay, it just stopped like that. But yeah, I don't know. I think overall, it's also what makes it fun about Season of Discovery, that like, we don't really know what's the good. We don't really know what's good and what's bad. And like, there's a lot of things that show up that end up being incredibly overpowerable. Overpowerable? I can't speak today, I guess. Great language. Overpowered. And other things are not that great, right? And then you can fine tune as you go. But it's something that we haven't had in Classic in a while. The whole thing with, you know, learning as we go and like figuring out what the meta is as we, you know, play the game, which is pretty cool.